All right, so this will be a short video, I hope. I would write this down just so you get the pattern, but this is how we do this. Square root of x is just the square root of x. This is a magic square root. There's a 2 up here, and since this is less than that, you can't do anything with that. So the square root of x is just the square root of x. Now, the square root of x squared, that's x. Okay, now, when you have the square root of x to the third, that first breaks down into x squared and x to the first, because what is x to the second times x to the first? It's x to the third. What I'm doing is I'm breaking it down to something you can take the square root of. So the square root of x squared is x, so an x pops out, but then I have the square root of x left over. Can't do anything with that, so it stays in. Okay, then square root of x to the fourth. Well, square root of x to the fourth is the same thing as square root of x squared times x squared. So this would be the same thing as x times x, which is x squared. So hopefully you figure out the pattern that since there's a 2 up here when you take the square root, what is 4 divided by 2? 2, that's what we end up with there. Good. So then, this next one, since I know that the square root of x to the fourth is x squared, I can break it down to x to the fourth and x to the first. So the square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Hello. And then I have the square root of x left in there. Can't do anything else with that. Then I have x to the sixth. Okay, well, that's the same thing as saying x squared times x squared times x squared. So I have 3 of them. The square root of this x squared is x. The square root of this x squared is x. And the square root of this x squared is x. So it'll be x to the third. Does it hold true? 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's how we got that one. 6 divided by 2. Does that give me 3? It does for the exponent. Awesome. So that's why that's going to be x to the third. So now these next ones might be a little easier, especially for this one and this one, because they're both even exponents. So that means the square root of x to the 8th should be x to the 4th, because 8 divided by 2 is 4. Over here, x to the 10th, the square root of that is going to be x to the 5th, because 5 divided by 2 is 10. So, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Wow, but messed that one up. Now, these odd ones, though, we have to break them down. This is the same thing as x to the 6th times x. So the square root of x to the 6th is x to the 3rd. And then I have the square root of x left in there. Then down here, I have x to the 9th. That's the same thing as x to the 8th times x. So this one, the square root of x to the 8th is x to the 4th. So x to the 4th pops out, and I'm left with the square root of x. Now, I'm going to very carefully erase these, and I'm going to add something in real quick. This might be oddly satisfying to some of you guys to watch, but, who knows. The whole division, that always works, as long as it's square root. Now, what can happen, though, and what will happen, especially with these examples, is I don't have square roots anymore. I have cube roots. Dun, dun, dun. Now, that means if the exponent on the variable is divisible by 3, things are easy. So let me start here. The third root of x to the third is just x, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's why there's a 1 right there. What about over here? These are my good ones. The third root of x to the 6th, well, that's the same thing as x to the third times x to the third. So that'd be the same thing as the third root of x. So that'd be x, and the third root of x to the third, x. The third root of this x to the third is x. So it'd be x squared. Once again, 6 divided by 3 is 2. That's where we got that from. So the same pattern works here. The third root of x to the 9th is just going to be 9 divided by 3 is 3. So x to the third. So those are my easy ones there, there, and there. Now, other easy ones, because there's not a lot of work there, are right here and here. Since this is the first and that's the second, the third root of x to the first is just the third root of x to the first. That's it. Can't do anything with it. Same thing here. The third root of x squared is just the third root of x squared. Okay. Now, this one you can break down into the third root of x to the third times x. So the third root of x to the third is x, so I'll pop an x out, and then I have the third root of x left in there. Once again, the reason I have 3 and 1 is because 3 plus 1 is 4. Then, I'm going to break this one down similarly, all right? Except I'm going to break this down to x to the third times x squared. Now you might say, why not 4 and 1? Well, because this is the third root. I need a 3 there. Have to have this x to the third. So the third root of x to the third is x, and that's why that pops out. But then I have the third root of x squared left in there. And that's where those come from. All right, now I'm going to break this one down a little fancier. Since that's the third, and I know 7's right here, I can break this down to x to the 6th and x to the 1st, because I already know what the third root of x to the 6th is. It's right there. Hello. So the third root of x to the 6th is x squared, and then I have the third root of x left in there. So it looks a little bit weird. I have x squared times the third root of x. Then this one is going to break down to the third root of x to the 6th again, then times x squared. 2 plus 6 is 8. So then the third root of x to the 6th is x squared. So it looks just like this one, but the problem is I have x squared inside that cube root. So now that one's done. Now, on this last problem here, I have the third root of x to the 10th. That breaks down into the third root of x to the 9th times x to the 1st. Because 9 plus 1 is 10. So this would be the same thing. Well, the third root of x to the 9th is going to be x to the 3rd. And then I have the third root of x left in here. One more problem. I'm going to do the third root of x to the 11th, just to make sure we're on the same page here. This is going to break down into, and this is what I always do, okay? Going from 11, the next number down that's a multiple of 3 is x to the 9th. That's why I do that. Then this has to be x squared, because 9 plus 2 gives me that 11. So then, this will be the third root. Oh, sorry. It's not the third root yet. The third root of x to the 9th is x to the 3rd. And then I have the third root of x squared in there. Thank you for listening.